Hey guys, this is Alice from Allykatkreations. How are you? Please like, share, subscribe to my channel if you haven't done so already. And if you get anything from my work, a connect the dot, an epiphany, mind blown moment, a new book to read, a new authors to explore, please consider supporting my work. All the links are at the bottom of the description. And I thank everybody for subscribing. I still lack on some of these likes, but that's okay. They're coming. And I want to thank those of you who help contribute to helping me keep doing this, motivating me each and every day. Before I get into the Message of Aquaria, I'm contemplating doing a book review. I don't want to go through all that right now. And continuing on with George Van Tassel with the gray alien agenda. Even though this is not gray alien agenda, so much so that it's, I don't know, I have to see where I'm doing this because I don't want to give away too much because it's a really good book and I want to yield it. So look out and watch out for that. I might just do a mini video. I'll see. This is a good title for chapter 3 here. Are these the last days? We'll see what they say. I say no, it's not. It's the ending of an old paradigm, but it's not the end of the last days. Quote, and ye shall hear of wars and rumors of wars. See that ye be not troubled, for all these things must come to pass, but the end is not yet. For nation shall rise against nation, and kingdom against kingdom. And there shall be famines and pestilence and earthquakes in divers places. All these are the beginning of sorrows. And quote St. Matthew. Quote, we must not accept a general principle from logic only, but must prove its application to each fact. For it is in facts that we must seek general principles, and these must always accord with facts. End quote. History of Animals, Aristotle. Quote, coming events cast their shadows before, end quote, is an age-old saying which, like all such sayings or wise saws, they have survived the ages, has an occult base in fact. In this case, the saying is based upon the fact that all events take place first in the higher realms and later descend into physical manifestation. As the great naturalist Agassiz recognized when he stated that all things had their origin in spirit, evolution having originally begun from above, proceeding downward instead of the reverse. I'm going to put a pause here. Take the hourglass analogy I make and a few others make. You start off with source itself. You're a part of the whole. And then you individuate and come into density, matter. So a lot of things that are happening dimensionally. and density wise. And it's just trickling down to our reality. In the realms of the eternal, there is neither past nor future. All is one everlasting now. Hence, at the moment of creation, a composite picture of the event and its working out through its positive and constructive, also its negative and destructive aspects, is instantaneously photographed upon what is called the Akashic records, or more commonly, the screen of time. While the necessity for the manifestation of the event on earth is a destiny that must necessarily be fulfilled, it is not fate, for by its power of free will choice, humanity determines in which way the destiny shall be fulfilled, either positively and constructively in peace and harmony through correlating with the law, or negatively in sorrow and suffering through opposition to the law, because the refusal to follow the principles of spiritual teachings. The seers who reach up in consciousness to the plane of eternal verities in the fourth dimension usually see first only the negative phase of the event that is to be. For that is the densest and closest to the earth, and thus fail to penetrate to the positive expression, which is in a higher state of vibration. So much to say here. Thus, see the event as a moving picture of which both the past events leading up to it and also the ultimate working out or fulfillment are cognized by the inner spiritual consciousness. But since the majority of seers see only one side of the picture according to their affinitization to any one phase, they report the ultimate fulfillment of either the positive or negative aspects of the event, which would seem to them absolutely predestined. In the case of one affinitized only to the lower negative aspect, or one with a pessimistic attitude of mind, he would probably enlarge only the many failures, sorrows, and evils which must be overcome, the complete fulfillment was possible. Another affinitized to the higher positive aspect would report only the glory of the ends to be obtained and entirely overlook the necessary conditions which humanity must prepare if the positive aspect is to receive expression. Thus each would give but half truths. Pause. Again, written in 1920, and that is my perception, absolute truth. Here's why. There's a lot of people who do remote viewing, who do channeling, who have the foresight ability. And people are like, oh, well, New York is going to get bombed. This is going to happen. That's going to happen. Blah, blah, blah. And it's 98% negative. Oh, and if this happens, right, everything gets wiped out and you're gone. Goodbye. You got to move. To the other aspect, there are people out there like, oh, well, all the aliens left. Everything is just hunky-dory. Everything's great. All the grays left. Really? Did they really leave? Or are you just telling us a ploy? Again, this is why I don't personally do readings, because I'm the middle way. I see both sides of the coin. I take in all logic and reason, but also the abstract, and go, okay, this is a possibility that could happen. What do we need to do to get prepared? And this is the eventual outcome that we can look forward to, but can't hold on to like group, because we're going to get burned if we do. Please watch who you listen to, and if you listen to them, that's wonderful. Have objective, subjective look, and they go within. I keep saying this every reading. You got to go within. It starts with you. Too many people are banking on concepts and these beautiful things, and they sound great. And don't get me wrong, don't think I don't want them for myself, but be realistic. Just because some person said, well, there's a leak in the government and this is going to look beautiful, it might, but it might not manifest that way. Time is forever fluid. And if you understood everything I just read, there we got a huge problem on our hands. Huge problem. It's why I don't do readings. Because things are forever evolving. Everybody's actions and motions has a cause and effect that changes or delineates the timelines. And we all sit and want to manifest for ourselves, and we can do so. But when we are all trying to get that collective consciousness to spring up into a manifestation, if the will and intention is of greed, it ain't happening. And 9 times out of 10, there's not too many people that are selfless when they get something of a major windfall. There's a lot of consequences to the actions of things that, again, there's catalysts in your life. Why are they there? Answer that question, and then you can probably solve your dilemma without having to wait for all eternity to wait for something to drop. And I'm saying this with love, and it's tough love. I know too many people I dearly care about that were convincing me to wait to move because things were going to change. Everything's going to happen. And I'm still waiting. And if I didn't listen to my own self and I listened to everybody else, I'd be homeless. So please take that into account. And those of you who are not in any political movements, I'm sure you're like, what the hell is she talking about? I keep saying to Sarah Jacera. Look that up. Therefore, in considering prophecies, we must always make allowance for the natural human tendency in their transmitters. For instance, the destiny of the present subrace is that the earth and its humanity must be purified and take an advanced step, both in consciousness and in physical affairs, to prepare conditions necessary for the coming of the more spiritual sixth subrace. Naturally, its past creations of selfishness, greed, impurity, injustice, and unbrotherliness must be faced and redeemed, or it can enter into the new cycle. This redemption could have been accomplished by the majority of the subrace sending out great streams of love, harmony, tolerance, and brotherhood to manifest in the actions of individuals and nations in such power that they would neutralize and transmute the accumulative evil. Then there would have been no world war. But since this was not done, in spite of many teachers sent to arouse the people to the necessary and the necessity of higher ideals, the adjustment had to be precipitated and physically in the negative and destructive aspect of physical warfare. Most comments on the prophecies of the Bible are based upon a literal interpretation of the symbols given, although there is generally an actual historical incident, place, or personage upon which the symbol is based. And while the prophecy will also have some form of physical fulfillment, the vital point to understand is the spiritual meaning of the symbol rather than the physical. The spiritual event which is to manifest either positively and constructively or negatively and destructively. For only as we learn the lesson intended by the symbol can we profit by the experience. Merely to hear the certain events are to transpire either fills us with fear or elates us with joy, and we quite forget that all depends upon our reaction to the lesson intended. Modern interpretations are usually calculated from some such period as the Babylonian captivity, from the known astronomical observations of 7 great eclipses left by the Egyptian astronomer Ptolemy. The date of Nebuchadnezzar's ascension has been accurately calculated as having taken place in 604 through 3 BC. This is commonly believed to mark the times when Jerusalem shall be trodden down of the Gentiles until times of the Gentiles be fulfilled. 2, computing the 7 times, which Daniel says must elapse as 7 cycles of 360 years each, we have a total of 7 times 360 equals 2,520 years. And this added to 603 BC, 2,520 minus 603 equals 1917. Gives us 1917 as the year when the rule of the Gentiles shall end and new dispensation begin. And in 1917 saw Jerusalem freed from the rule of the Gentiles, Turks, and under the rule of the Christian King of England. There's so many documents that I wish I could bring up right now, but I can't. I don't have Scribed. I'd be lost on that. But I'm going to just keep reading. But then those of you who know, just take this as, again, they were writing this in 1920, and they didn't know that everything was 1984. Dr. Gretan Guinness, who is looked upon in many ways as an orthodox authority on biblical calculations, makes his reckoning from the beginning of the abomination that maketh desolate, which he considers began with the Turkish occupation of Jerusalem, and which he is quoted as placing at 622 AD, although the Encyclopedia Britannica gives the date of an entry into Jerusalem by the Caliph Omar as 637 AD. By a similarly obscure method of his own, he calculates the 1,305 and 30 days, or lunar years, according to the lunar measurements used in the Hebrew of Daniel as equaling 1,295 solar years. And from this concludes that the time of abomination ended in 1917. 1,295 plus 622 equals 1917. But no matter how historically inaccurate the dates assumed above may be, the occult addition of the number given by Daniel gives 12 parentheses 1 plus 3 plus 3 plus 5 equals 12 parentheses, or the number of a complete solar cycle, showing that the end of a cycle is clearly indicated, even though the orthodox method of calculating the exact date is unreliable. Quote, according to Mr. Norris, the period of 1917 through 1918 is the termination of 3 great prophetic periods. It is the termination of the 1260 minus 1260 minus 50, I don't know if that's minus, but dash 75 lunar years from 602 through 1 BC, when Judah became tributary to Babylon. Secondly, it is the termination of the 2,520 solar years from 604 through 3 BC, when Nebuchadnezzar saw the vision of the great image And thirdly, the termination of the 1,335 lunar years from 622 AD, the commencement of Mohammedanism. Again, according and adding to the 70 years captivity period to the year 1847 through 48, the date of the second downfall of temporal power of the papacy, we read the downfall of all evil, although we still have evil with us. They did not put the Council of Nicaea in that equation, did they? Further, if we add the 40 years of probation experienced by the children of Israel to 1877 AD, the year of the defeat and dismemberment of the Turkey through the Russo-Turkish War, we reached 1917, the final destruction of all desolation of abomination. If we take the end of a cycle of 50 years, we come to what Pastor Russell speaks of as a jubilee of jubilees, Earth's great jubilee, or times of restitution, Acts 3:21. Reckoning from the beginning of the 70 years desolation under Babylon, the great cycle ends with the year 1875. 6 cycles of 7 years each from 1875 brings the date up to 1917. The commencement of the 7th cycle, Pastor Russell and his many followers are daily expecting the great world change. These prophecies of the Bible show, so he claims, is coming in 1917. They think that at any moment Christ may appear, and then that 1,000 years millennium will start. An anonymous author writing in 1895 using the Grand Gallery of the Great Pyramid to symbolize the Christian dispensation says, quote, the termination of the Grand Gallery, 1,910 inches, gives the 3rd of December, 1910, as the end of the present era. The total length, including the height of the Great Step at the end, is 1,917.7 inches, which would bring us to the 12th of November, 1917. The top of the Great Step is much worn. Probably it's originally indicated Tuesday, the 4th of December, 1917, as the theoretical date of the end. 5. Thus do many modern prophets, having been duly impressed with the idea of the near ending of certain cycles, laboriously seeking to pin the events down to certain specific dates, even though they are forced to distort history to make their theories figure out as they think they should. But as a rule, the methods by which such calculations are made will not bear mathematical and astronomical investigation, even though the cycle may end at approximately the date given. But how are we, who require some scientific basis for our belief, to regard these various calculations, even though we prefer to consider the symbolic rather than the historical interpretation of the symbols? Since all creation, as manifested in nature and in history of nations, follows a parallel course, these prophecies point unmistakably to the close of some great period, not the end of the world, as many think, but the end of a dispensation, the end of a great cycle, in this case, the end of a subrace. One peculiarity, can't get that word out properly, of racial manifestation is that every subrace foreshadows in a manner that which will be more fully and completely expressed and manifested by the succeeding great race of the same number. For instance, the coming 6th subrace, into whose beginnings humanity is now entering, will not usher in the millennium referred to in the biblical prophecies, but will foreshadow and prepare it, sow the seed, as it were. That is, there will be such tremendous uplift and advance over previous conditions as they existed before the World War, spiritually, mentally, and physically, that to many it will seem to be the dawn of a new millennium. It will be truth. It will, in truth, be the dawn of the seed time of that which can fully manifest only at the close of the sixth great race. For the true millennium can come only during the period of the seventh great race, or the great Sabbath day of the rest of the world period, although there will be a minor millennium in the seventh subrace. Pause. There is a lot of debate right now what we are right now. Like, what can we categorize us as? Are we in the seventh great race? Are we in a sub-octave of those things? I say we are in a sub-octave. We're not in complete full octave of fourth density yet. We are ping-ponging in between 3 to 5 densities. And we're still in that period because it's still coming down from above us, playing out above us, coming down, and we get the end results. Sucks. And again, like I said at the beginning, at the last video, we really don't know if we really are yet in the Aquarian age. We're just closing out. We're like, according to some astrologers, I'm not an astrologist, so I can't give you that answer. I don't know. I mean, it doesn't necessarily matter. Things are going to play out the way they play out, regardless of what day, date, time, year. Here's the problem with all these calendars and dates. We don't know which one we really are actually on, because when CERN did their little experiment and we zipped somewhere in different part of the universe, and now we're skipping back into succession, we don't really know what actual time is, if it exists. It's linear, and we perceive it to be because we're in third density. But everybody's perception of a calendar, when time started or when people came, all a sham. I mean, it doesn't necessarily make a big difference either, though. You're here, I'm here, we're in the present, let's live it. That's what I have to say about that. But it's really annoying because you really, like, these are human things that we would like to know. Is like, what's today's date? Okay, but if we're going off the Julian calendar and the Gregorian calendar, the Ethiopian calendar and the Mayan calendar and that calendar and this calendar, da 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 da. I mean, it's a shit show. And is there any right or wrong? I mean, it was really funny. I was on the phone yesterday and someone's like, "Oh, how old are you?" And I just gave my soul's age. And they're like, "Oh, no, your meat suit's age." I'm like, I don't even know if that's real. Like, I know I was born on this date, but is that real? It's very metaphysical. It's one to think about. Something to ponder. Back to the book. For instance, the coming sixth sub-race, into whose beginnings humanity is now entering, will not usher into the millennium referred in the biblical prophecies, but will foreshadow and prepare for it, so and seed it. That is, there will be such a tremendous uplift and advanced over previous conditions as they exist before the World War. I'm reading this again, guys, for a reason. Spiritually, mentally, physically, that to many it will seem to be the dawn of the millennium. It will, in truth, be but the dawn of the seed time of that which can fully manifest it only at the close of the sixth race. For the true millennium can only come during the period of the seven great race, or the great Sabbath day of the rest of the world period, although there will be a minor millennium in this seventh subrace. I had to read that again, because there's something to that I will investigate moving forward. There's something there. There's something there. Because the kids coming in now, I'm just thinking, I'm going to give you my logical thinking and then we'll move on. The kids that are being born now, and there are already some seeded that are older in their teens to early 20s. And I'm not far off from that. I just turned 40. That we came in with specific DNA upgrades. I know when I came in, I mean, I have a mission and I was upgraded to an extent, but the kids coming in now are a whole different breed of kids. So I'm trying to figure out in what way are we already past what they're saying. Who knows? Could be. Just trying to equate the math in my brain. As to when we may expect the millennium to be ushered in, since we demand facts rather than theories, let us refer to the well-known astronomical calculations of the Eastern sages. It is known that the Assyrians preserved astronomical records covering a period of 270,000 years, which have been confirmed by our modern astronomers as far back as 4,800 years before the Greek era. The far more ancient Hindu calculations are based upon the following table of cycles or yugas. 1,000 Mahayugas making one kapla or day of Brahma. And we read this with Blavatsky. Each of the Mahayugas is composed of 4 cycles as follows. The Krita Yuga, or the Golden Age, 1,728,000 years. The Treta Yuga, or Silver Age, 1,296,000 years. I can never get this pronounced out. The Dvapara Yuga, the Bronze Age, 8,684 years. Sorry, guys, my dyslexia, I'm seeing things shift. The Kali Yuga, and again, sorry if the math is off, but again, I'm trying to focus, so I'm saying it right. The Kali Yuga, or Iron Age, 400,000. Okay, I can't for right now, cannot do the math verbalizing. Doesn't compute in my brain, and I know what it is. 432,000. There we go. Can't look at it. We are now living in the early part of the Kali or Iron Age of this Mahakapla, concerning which the Vishnu Purana prophesizes, quote, property alone will confer rank, wealth will be the only source of devotion, passion will be the only bond of union between sexes, falsehood will be the only means of success in litigation, dishonesty will be the universal means of substance, weakness the cause of dependence, menace and presumption will be substituted for learning, liberality will be devotion, A man, if rich, will be pure. Mutual assent will be marriage. Fine clothes will be dignity. He who is the strongest will reign. The figures given above are not the calculations of biblical students who have had no training in the philosophy of world cycles, who have only theories, mere estimates, which they think plausible. Neither are they the result of revelation or psychic information. They are the mathematical results of astronomical calculations, capable of verification in any age and therefore irrefutable. They have proven correct to within 1 degree in 4,883 years. According to the calculations, the Kali Yuga or Iron Age, in which there are, of course, innumerable lesser cycles and subcycles, began with the reputed death of Krishna. Astronomically, this was the Mars, Mercury, Saturn, and Jupiter were in conjunction in the 6th degree of Aquarius. This conjunction occurred between February 17th and 18th, 3102 BC, at a time when the 4 great stars, which from the points of the heavenly cross were in balance. Aldebaran, the eye of the bull, and Antares, the heart of the scorpion, being exactly the equinoctial points, while Regulus, the heart of the lion, and Fomalhaut, the southern fish, were near the solstical point. We are therefore only in the beginning of the Iron Age at 432,000 years, the first 5,000 years of which ended in January 1898. 5,000 minus 3,102 equals 1898. We therefore have 427,000 years left before the close of the Iron Age. Hence, no one need worry about the end of the world coming at all soon. For the 6th and 7th sub-races of our present 5th or Aryan race, and then the entire 6th and 7th great races with their 7 sub-races, each with its many family races, each composed of many nations, must all have their evolution before the close of the Kapla. To gain some conception of such vast periods, let us consider the cycle of the present 5th great race, the Aryan. This began about 1,000,000 years ago, before the complete sinking of the ancient continent of Atlantis at the beginning of the glacial or ice age. The secret doctrine tells us that the first subrace saw the doom of the giants of those days, also the flood, which the 4th saw the disappearance 11,000 years ago of the last islands left by the sinking of Atlantis. Each subrace endures for approximately 210,000 years. Its 7 family divisions extending over some 30,000 years, and the many national divisions from 3,000 to 4,000 years. We are now just entering upon the beginning of the 210,000 year period of the 6th subrace, although the period will be considerably shortened, owing to the shortening of all periods as the great cycle draws to a close. Then will follow the even shorter cycle of the 7th subrace. Then the 6th great race will have to have its evolution of nearly 1,000,000 years before no, it's not 1,000,000. Something in that compatible again. Sorry, guys, is happening in my head today really bad. It's Mercury retrograde. I'm blaming everything on Mercury retrograde, especially me can't reading numbers out of nowhere. I can read some, and then others I get. So I do apologize. Before the 7th great race, when the great Kalki avatar or the Christ will descend to reign upon earth forever and ever. That is until the end of the great day period or round. Nevertheless, we are at the end of a sub-race cycle when its old accounts must be balanced. A minor iron age preparatory to the minor golden age or the sub-race cycle for each race. Sub-race and family race has its iron in other ages. The end of the world will therefore not come suddenly, nor as long as there are forces and materials in the earth which are undeveloped and unutilized for the benefit of all. Only when the very earth itself and the forces now existing within it have been raised up to a higher expression can we have a new heaven and a new earth, in which we advanced materials and forces will be incorporated as fundamental essences, just as our advances in one life are built into our bodies in the next incarnation, and as our faculties are expanded as we enter the astral world. Man must become the Lord of creation, the ruler of the earth and all its forces, but this will not be obtained through a miracle. We must first conceive the idea of what it is intended, when gradually bring it into manifestation. For instance, we must learn to efficiently, not that all things may work together for success, merely in wars or business, but for the best good of all humanity. All waste must be eliminated and all resources utilized for good of all. Great strides are now being made in guarding the health and conserving the manpower of the nations, also reducing infant mortality, but greater strides must be made in protecting humanity from the burden of the deficient and unfit. They are the less evolved souls who will strive to incarnate for a time in the advanced conditions now being ushered in, although they are not far enough advanced to correlate with those conditions and take their places as co-workers, and hence would be to be taken care of by the more advanced, as they are today. In the new age, those who are sufficiently advanced to correlate with the new conditions must be permitted to advance in this new cycle without the handicap of carrying the less evolved, or the rapid advance necessitated by the new era, and the wisdom needed for their proper care could never be obtained. The race being already nearly 5,000 years behind the development it should have reached. This is why I say it very often that we're all not waking up. And that is not to upset anybody or make anybody feel inferior, which no. Many souls incarnate from other systems and it's their first human go around and they're not ready to go. That doesn't mean you're a bad or evil person because you're not there yet. Just take that in mind, and not saying that people who can't physically communicate are in this reality what they're talking about, because that's not true. The less evolved will have their opportunity later on in the minor cycles of a succeeding sub-race, at which time humanity will have advanced to a point where it can wisely and understandingly care for and help on their evolution far more efficiently and quickly than now, while still struggling for advance itself. The compensation the undeveloped will receive for waiting certain cycles, as the animals are now waiting for entrance into the human kingdom. No animals having been admitted into the human kingdom after the beginning of the fifth sub-race of the third race will be the tremendously increased and far easier advance to be made than now. Therefore, the great importance of arousing all who will listen to our recognition of the necessity of taking advantage of the great opportunities now offered for rapid progress and setting out in earnest on the path or striving to live the mystic life. For this is truly the end of the world cycle. For those who utterly refuse to respond to the higher ideals that are now being set forth for humanity's standard and attainment, All such will live out the natural life of this incarnation and will have every opportunity given them to contact, if they will, the truths of the higher life. To hear lectures, read books, and meet with those whose lives are manifesting the higher ideals. But if they refuse to listen or pay attention after the close of this present life period, they will remain out of incarnation until the end of this radical cycle. They will then incarnate only when the great mass of humanity will have, which has continued to advance, has progressed to the point where it can carry such laggards, where their ignorance, indifference, ridicule, and even active opposition can no longer retard the progress of those who are striving to live up to their higher ideals. In short, when such backward ones next incarnate, they will find themselves in a hopeless minority and will have to be classed among the laggards and unfit. Therefore, it is most important that each earnest student sow the seed wherever the soil seems propitious, not forcing it upon others, and leave the harvest to the great law. Let no one say he lacks opportunity. The seed can be sown in whatever environment we find ourselves if we carefully prepare the soil. And I'm going to say this because this is something that I personally know, that a lot of you know and have been on my journey for the last year, had known that my cat Ethan had just recently passed away in June. When I got a reading from the medium, and that was like literally the day after he died, he's going to be waiting in spirit to become human. It's his turn to become human. And Morgan is in the same route, and I already knew for her for sure that she's going to be human. Her next incarnation as an animal, upgrading to third density, she's going to come in as a human, and we're the humans who train our animals with unconditional love, with patience, and showing them how to live a human life. They're going to come back when it is their time. Those who criticize Jason with are they coming back from 2015? Nah, they're already with us. They're here in energy. They're not, again, this clearly is telling you, if it is their time to incarnate, it's up to their individualized contracts with Source. We can't give a definitive on a majority of people who have passed away, because none of us know the entirety of who has passed away. There's a lot of people that get confused with that. Energy doesn't die, you just transform. And if you're going to come back in densified form, why are they coming? Why would they want to come back right now? I wouldn't want to come back right now if I had just passed away. I would want to wait until shit clears and things get better, and there's high-end consciousness, and it's here. We're forming it now, but it's not here in totality yet. We're just merging and making these changes. There's a long time to go before all these explosive stuff happens, and things are happening. Time is sped up exponentially for that reason. We're at the end of an epoch. We're moving forward. The end of a cycle is drawing to a close. And many of us are staying here, and many of us are not. Many of us don't want these vehicles that we're in. They're trash. Most of us know that because we're always in pain or feeling something. There's always a cleanse, a diet, a detox, and all this nonsense. But regardless, those of us who signed the contract with Source, the arrangement, whatever you want to call it, some of us are staying and some of us are leaving. That doesn't mean we're not coming back. We will incarnate in fourth density when shit clears. We will choose the circumstances, we will choose the families, we will choose it all over again, like we have done in the past. But this time we're in higher consciousness. We're in one polarity and not dual. That makes sense. So everybody needs to detach from this form. Detach. That's why I like the Vikings. Valhalla. Don't, death is just a rebirth. Don't fear death. Just don't fear it. Because then you'll get stuck here and you're not going to be able to go anywhere because you're going to be a ghost. And you got to find people like me that know how to zip you back up. Anywho, just as disease is rapidly being abolished by the intelligent application of our resources, vibratory, physical, mental, psychic, and spiritual, so must poverty be gradually abolished. We're not there yet. Not by the confiscation of the wealth of others, but by abolishing the power and prestige now given to the possession of wealth, increasing the intelligence and efficiency of the masses, and utilizing the resources of nature more fully and under a just and efficient governmental control for the benefit of the people as a whole. The fetus of the new humanity is already stirring in the womb of time, and like a human mother, humanity must learn to eliminate its waste materials and poisons and give the fetus proper nourishment, or the life of both the child and mother will be endangered, as in the cases of eclampsia. This is the work of the present trajectory conditions, and it is a waste of time and energy, hence will delay the fulfillment to speculate on the details of that which is to come only after many hundreds of thousands of years in the future. The entire thought and aim of today should be to meet present day conditions as they confront us, but meet them with an intelligent conception of the advanced conditions in humanity and its organization toward which the present day events are tending, and which may be obtained the more quickly by taking wise advantage of the opportunities offered now. That's why many people are asking you to live in the moment, to be present in the moment more than in the past, because the past has been finished and done with. We're not looking back there. Go watch the Vikings. Don't look back, because you ain't going back there. Mr. Ragnar Lothbrok. But it's the truth. If we keep looking toward the past, we need to learn from the past. That's not to say don't to study the past or to look back to see where things went wrong. And they went wrong everywhere. But what's the truth from the past? We shouldn't live in the past. We shouldn't really look back, and we got to say goodbye to it. Also, merging forward, we can't take old paradigms into the new consciousness, into the new earth, into the new world, whatever the new cycle, whatever you want to say. There's, coined by certain people like 5D economy. Okay, we don't know what that's going to look like because 5D is not here yet. We have to live in the present. But what can we create to manifest that will look like a new model, take what's good from the old and bring it into the new, but reimagine it? We need to reimagine. We need to come up with new ways of doing things. And that's where we are now. We're in this holding period where we're all collectively trying to think what will better humanity, what technology, what can we improve upon that worked, but we need to make it different and better. We're in this cycle right now. This is where we are, in my opinion, where we're sitting right now. The problem is people are taking the indoctrinated things that are not of our advantage, trying to put a shiny bow on it, make it look sparkly and pretty, and trying to drag this old pretty boxed up concept into the new world. And it's not going to work. Old systems are dying. We have to act as a humanity. When you're only benefiting people who can afford, you're not helping those that are on the bottom. The people that are on the bottom would very much like the miracles in the cans and the bottles and the pills and all those are holistic things that everybody takes that are exorbitantly expensive. And it's not a sly on anybody who takes them or anybody who makes them, because it is, things are expensive right now. But as a totality, how is that helping? Is it helping everybody, meaning in totality, or is it helping just the people who can afford it? These are the things that we really need to look at and look and objectify at, because there's people like me who live in pain. I have thankfully been taken off I took myself off almost all of my medication, and I try to eat as clean and as healthy as possible within my limits. Not everything can I afford. And I would love to get onto all these, like, MSN, these companies that you make money and commissions off of selling stuff. Don't think I wouldn't love that, but guess what? That's just not a reality for me. I've tried it, doesn't work. And it costs more in the end for me. Does that work for humanity? Are those products being given out? You have to help everybody, not just a few. So here's how we need to be inventive, and we have to be creative with helping the mass, not just a few. And that also divides everybody in class systems. So these are the things we are dealing with right now in our ending of the cycle, merging into a new. We're in the cusp of, like, we're in this in between. And we need to detach from people, places, and things, along with concepts, dates, and what people are telling you. You, again, it all resides within you. It's the remembering that you need to have. It's great listening to everybody objectively, to take what they say and go, okay, let me go within with that. Does this make sense? What does my higher self say? And if you're not getting the answers, don't attach yourself to something that you are not going within with. You're not discerning the information. You're just holding on to someone else's concept and perception. This is very important. In order for us to manifest collectively, we all need to be on the same page. We can't all be on the same page when you're being indoctrinated into new things, new concepts, because someone said so, and this is what this paper says, doesn't make it so. Doesn't make it come to life. Because everybody wants a handout. Yes, there was a lot of money stolen from all of us. And don't think I wouldn't want that back. I can do a lot of things to help myself and better myself so that I can help more people. All of us would love those opportunities, but there ain't coming for a long time. So what are you going to do in the meantime? You're going to sit and do nothing and wait, or are you going to manifest your life and live it now in the present without having to be in fear? We need to make new paradigms. We need to start exploring new things so that we can. This is what Dolores Cannon's vision was about, the separation. We got to, again, detach. That's very hard. I had to learn how to do that last year. That was significantly one of my harder lessons I had to learn. It's not easy. These things are not, they're not easy, and it doesn't happen in a day. So just have patience with yourself. Give everything unconditional love, including your pets. When Ethan passed away, I was hurt. I was devastated. I was upset because I didn't think he was sick. I didn't think anything was wrong with him, but he had a stroke or he had a brain tumor. You can't know. They don't do the scans like they do on humans. Regardless, it was his time to go. And I respected that. And I had to make a decision. And that was the first time I had to put an animal down too. That was very difficult. But I detached myself and I asked upstairs, is it his time to go? His higher self said yes. He said, okay, I will do what I have to do. I don't want him suffering. Knowing at the end result is that I did the right thing. He's going to be a human. And he got to experience 13 years of a life with me. He probably learned a lot and got a lot off of me vibrationally. And hopefully when he incarnates at some juncture in time, our light will meet again. I see things in a different light, and I don't tend to dwell on it. Yeah, it sucks. I don't have my parents with me. They're here in spirit. They're here in energy. Yeah, it sucks. I can't pick the phone up and hey, mom, what's up? I need some advice because I don't, there's no one else that knows me better than you. I don't have those conversations, and not too many, and most people are lucky enough to have their parents or really close family for that. But there are a lot of people in the world that don't. But at the end of the day, this has to start happening. And right now, it is, I could see it in people who are consciously aware and awake. They're having a hard time. It's not easy. Give yourself grace. Understand things are fluid. Understand we chose this time. What a better time to be strong and detach so that we can move forward. More and more people are starting to understand that concept. It takes a lot of inner work. You have to do your inner work. You have to clear your trauma. You have to clear, and trauma is a forever cycle thing for you to clear. But get enough out, learn your process. It's so important. Sorry, guys. I'm going to read one more chapter and then we'll end. I know I rant and then I go off on tangents and then the video becomes so much longer. I'm sorry. Chapter 4, Comets and Eclipses. Quote, comets importing change of times and states, brandish your crystal tresses in the sky, and with them scourge the bad revolting stars, end quote. King Henry VI, Shakespeare, Act 1, Scene 1. Quote, when beggars die, there are no comets seen. The heavens themselves blaze forth the death of princes, end quote. Julius Caesar, Shakespeare, Act 2, Scene 2. Quote, the heavens declare die glory of God, and the firmament sheweth his handiwork, end quote. Psalms. Cosmic and sidereal changes directly affect the earth and therefore its inhabitants. For instance, it is well known that the so-called sunspots markedly alter the magnetic conditions and hence affect the magnetic and atmospheric currents of the earth with such regularity that important changes in the weather can be predicted a month or more in advance within a few days after a sunspot appears. This is because the sun, although but the physical reflection of the spiritual sun, is nevertheless the heart of our system. And like the heart of man, it has its rhythmic beat, its systole and distole. But instead of its pulsations requiring less than half a minute to complete the round of circulation, as in the case of the blood of a man, the sun requires a period of 11 years to complete the circulation of its life blood to the planets and return. And as the sunspots are one of the phenomena attending the dilation distole of the great cosmic heart, when the life forces are being indrawn, astronomers are quite correct in stating that this phenomena will occur with special intensity every 11 years. Throughout the ages, comets have been universally recognized by the occultists as celestial messengers, his angels, which bring great forces to the systems and planets whose orbits they intercept. The major ones which contact the Earth's atmosphere are followed by great mental, moral, social, and political changes. The major comets are remarkable for approaching nearer the sun and at, oh, I know this word, perihelion. I'm totally butchering that though. Then does the orbit of any other known body passing through the sun's corona with a velocity of more than 100 miles per second without suffering any retardation. During this passage, they gather the message of the region of the sun together with its radiant energy and actual physical materials composing it. The visit of a comet to the sun is followed shortly thereafter by a shower of meteors, so-called shooting stars, from a focal point in some particular region or constellation, which is called its radiant, or the radiant center and source of the meteors. As the meteors enter the atmosphere of the Earth, they bring not only new magnetic, ethereal, and spiritual forces, but actual physical materials from their distant sources in the heavens. The advent of former notable comets was followed by showers of meteors from Andromeda, Perseus, Leo, and Lyra. But it is of the greatest importance to an understanding of the new Aquarian age to remember that the advent of the Great Halley's Comet in 1910, which really ushered in the Aquarian age, 1910 equal 11, the number of Aquarius, and which left in the Earth's atmosphere the physical materials of its entire tail, some millions of miles in length, was followed by a great shower of meteors coming for the first time from Aquarius as their radiant or source. Therefore, physical science collaborates the occult teachings that at the beginning of this new age, the new Earth has received not only new forces, but has received actual material substances from the constellation Aquarius. Is it any wonder then that the advent of the forces and materials from Aquarius, its ruler, Saturn, the reaper, should begin to reap the crop of tares sown by man during the cycle, Piscean, now closing, and clear the field for that which is to be brought forth in the new age. Among celestial phenomena, the appearance of comets has always been heralded as a harbinger of strife, war, pestilence, and troublesome times. The first great comet commonly mentioned in history was seen in the Western Asia in 604 BC, when Nebuchadnezzar was on his way to the conquest of Palestine. The Jews of that day regarded it as a portent of the speedy downfall of their kingdom. In the year 66 AD, according to Josephus, a star shaped like a sword hung over Jerusalem for a whole year before the beginning of a great war, which ended in the destruction of the city by Titus and great annihilation of the Jewish state in AD 70. 68 years later, another comet appeared at the time of the rebellion led by Bar Chochibas, which resulted in the slaughter of 500,000 Jews by the Roman armies and completed dispersion of Israel among the nations. Since that time, rulers and military leaders have always given attention to the appearance of comets. TH illustrates stranger passing, terror shreds on gazing nations. For instance, the comet of 1811 confirmed Napoleon in his plan for the invasion of Russia, although his misinterpretation of its significance proved most disastrous to him. In reality, comets are messengers, which literally brings powers, forces, intelligences, and physical materials from the far distant regions they have traversed. Most of them have regular orbits and appear regularly at longer or shorter intervals. The one discovered by the astronomer Wolf at Hagelberg, having an orbit whose cycle is said to require the enormous period of 60,000 years for its completion, Halley's Great Comet, which has a period of approximately 76 years and which recently visited us in 1910, brought not only new mental, psychic, and spiritual forces to this planet, but the actual physical materials of its enormous tail, all of which were bound to modify not only the minds of men, as has been markedly evident in the upset mental conditions of all the nations, but also their astral and physical bodies, as well as the earth itself, just as the clouds of volcanic dust, which were sent high into the upper atmosphere from a recent volcanic eruption in Alaska, encircled the earth and affected its climate for many months. Many of the former visits of this comet were followed by the war, marked changes among the nations. In its visit in 1066, being followed by the invasion of England by the Normans, that of 1456 by the Turkish invasion of Europe, its huge scimitar-shaped tail exciting the greatest consternation throughout Europe. Great changes in humanity inevitably followed the appearance of such visitors, not because the comets bring war as such, but because they bring new physical and spiritual forces, ideas, materials, and intelligences destined to usher in a new era, either minor or major. The required advance usually necessitates the destruction of many old conditions, ideas, forms of government, social conditions, and religions, just as every new cycle of spring necessitates the destruction of the old forms of the last season's vegetation. Hence, the appearance of comets should be regarded as a dawn of a new springtime for humanity, a new cycle, and in some cases, a new era in the evolution of mankind and the planet. They therefore bring good tidings in spirit, in spite of the changes necessary for the new manifestations. Although there are 2 eclipse seasons of the sun and 1 of the moon of about a month's duration in each year, eclipses are nevertheless important in making the duration of cycles, some major and many minor. The cycle of eclipses occurring every 18 years is called a saros, and is especially important because in each saros, the eclipses are repeated in nearly the same consecutive order and are of similar character, either total, annular, or partial. We are taught that as the moon is eclipsed by the shadow of the earth, when the earth passes between it and the sun, the earth, while thus hiding its lesser luminary, is gathering up and absorbing more occult, mystical, and wonderful potencies and preparing for new expression. And so must it be with each individual and with this order, since the order of Christian mystics is a true cosmic order. Ever since its conception, it has noticeably followed the trend and laws of cosmic events. It has passed through many periods of partial eclipse, when darkness seemed to settle over it like the planet. During those periods of semi-darkness, it was gathering greater powers and more wonderful potencies that it might manifest more powerfully in the new day, just as an individual learns the greatest soul lessons and has his most vital experiences while passing through periods of darkness or eclipse. And as in the cosmic system, each atom personally that is drawn into the onboard sweep of the order has its place and its special end to obtain. Again, like the cosmos, the order is governed by a mighty and immutable law which predestines each soul who correlates with its force to reach the perfection of suns, yet gives to each the widest latitude of free will as to the manner and length of time required to work out his destiny. For all are destined ultimately to reach such perfection. Because of this free will, he can refuse to work in the little personal ways that mark the beginning of all great endeavors and wander like an embryonic sun, which throughout countless eons is apparently lost in space. Or again, like others, he can be drawn into the influence of some system whose day of manifestation is progressing, and there apparently be swallowed up as an independent entity, obeying the law of that system and adding his force to it. Yet, although his senses the untrammeled scope of the work in which he is destined to participate and the importance of the fulfillment of the end, he often forgets his own individual responsibility and is inclined to leave such matters to the leaders of the organization, society, or church with which he is concerned, and thus greatly delays the time of his perfection. The vision of glory to be obtained is ultimately sensed by every advancing soul. Even though it looms but dimly before the mental vision, it thrills every fiber of his being, much as an autumnal landscape, veiled by a faint violet haze through which the sun shines with a softened glow, idolizing land and sea, fills the heart of the beholder with an ecstasy of longing. Yet the same objects viewed in the full glare of the midsummer sun stand out as naked physical objects to be met and conquered through effort. Grain to be garnered, fruit to be sprayed, that it may be saved from the ravages of insects. Everywhere the need of honest toil to reap the harvest, or seen in early spring, will suggest only hope and possibility, a spur to the needed toil and effort. Hence, none should waste time in dreaming of the end, but should do each task as it is presented with the realization that thus the end will be obtained as surely as the harvest follows spring and summer. The eclipse of the moon on July 14th, 1916, marked the close of a secret major cycle of long duration, and from an occult standpoint was one of the most important of many centuries, for it marked an absolute change from one era to another. In other words, the Earth's position in relation not only to the sun, but to its great journey through space, along with its companion planets, was uniquely different from any similar position which it had occupied before. That eclipse marked an entire climactic, mental, psychic, and spiritual change for the Earth and its inhabitants. The beginning of the fulfillment approaches. The baptism of blood in the World War had reached its first stage of completion and had entered upon that which was indicated by excess of green color that was visible as the eclipse progressed. When the eclipse was watched closely, the red in its darker, angrier, more disastrous form was seen to be followed by the green, which symbolized the lower mind, the dominance of the intellectual or lower manas, by means of which physical supply is obtained. But after the war, that too will pass away, just as it was seen to pass over the moon, for the reign of intellect over the world, as used by so-called big business, selfishly to control the supply of the necessities of God's children, is about to be eclipsed. This did not come immediately after the war, nor will it come even quickly, but it is destined to pass away, to be swept from the planet by devastations of war and anarchy, as well as the physical devastations that will prevail over the globe. As we have said, the first step, or as the Bible puts it, the first woe, it is accomplished and the second seal has been opened. At 6:30 p.m. on March 2nd, 1918, was another occultly momentous astronomical event occurred, one which marked the close of a long cycle of the cosmic reign of Saturn in the greater zodiac and the beginning of the reign of Jupiter, which is to last throughout the entire 6 and 7 sub-races, or until the 6th great race is ushered in. For although this present Aquarian age is said to be ruled by Uranus, since Uranus is the ruler of rulers, it will rule largely through its influence on Jupiter, giving to the influence of that planet greater power and potency, just as the powers of Saturn were made more potent during that last Piscean age. At the above-mentioned hour, there was a great rejoicing and jubilee in all the realms of the worlds of this system, from the glad dancing of the fairies and elementals up to the sacred joy of even the archangels. For at the hour, the mystery planet so long hidden behind the moon showed, for the first time since the forces of its Laya centers were transferred to this planetary chain, a glimpse of its bright rim beyond that of the moon, and shed its glorious light directly upon the kingdoms as our entire system entered the new conflagration in space. When we speak of a greater and lesser zodiac, it must be understood that we are using the terms greater and lesser in the same sense that the physical human body is a lesser expression of the greater divine self, the immortal I. And being the microcosm of the macrocosm, man manifests through cycles of zodiacal influences corresponding to those through which the planets pass. We speak of the path of evolution through which the personality passes, and the greater path of manifestation through which the immortal soul is evolving. Yet each includes the building in of the forces and lessons from the zodiac. The Earth passes through the 12 signs of the zodiac in 1 year, while our whole planetary system moves in retrograde direct through the 12 signs of the zodiac, which, like a gigantic ring, encircles our cosmos with numerous and other solar systems. All these solar systems revolve around one central sun, which it's supposed to be in the constellation Pleiades, Alcyone. And through JQ's documentation and Ashiana, that is correct. Alcyone, that central sun, is Tara, New Earth 2. To make a mental picture of this is somewhat difficult unless we compare it with man, comparing the lesser zodiac, whose constellations we can see and study with a telescope, with man's physical body in the greater zodiac, which we cannot see with the physical eyes to the soul, or the true eye, the movement, being retrograde because the soul is going back to God as it revolves around the central spiritual sun. The eclipse of 71% of the light of the sun on the evening of June 8th, 1918, which threw a line of shadow 50 miles wide diagonally across this country from Aberdeen, Washington to Ormond, Florida, was also of great significance to this country, as those will recognize who have eyes to see and the hearts to understand. The total eclipse of the moon on the night of April 21st, 1921 marked another important step in the manifestation of the mystery planet, an important stage in the life expression of the order of the Christian mystics. The sum of the numbers forming the date 4/21/1921 equals 20, which number is called the dispenser of wisdom. And it was during the eclipse that the Lord of life and love and wisdom, the real or divine self of the order, or the great spiritual being for whose special manifestation the order was put forth, actually descended to take up his abode in the aura of the order and become the dispenser of wisdom for it, while those who form the true atoms of this body of the order must become the points of radiation of his force and consciousness, and responsible for the order's influences in the world. We therefore, standing before the mighty portals, waiting for the curtain of time to rise upon the new age. It rise will be gradual, first illuminating our feet, understanding, then our hands, power to accomplish, our hearts, power to bring forth, and finally will bring illumination to our heads, power to rule. Let us therefore prepare ourselves for that which is approaching so swiftly. But opposed to everything seemingly evil, omen, portents of good also appear. The new star called Nova Aquaria, which was recently discovered on the verge of the Milky Way between Altair and Eta Septens, thus falling in the sign of Capricorn, is one of the most important phenomena that has appeared for many centuries, as referred to by one authority, quote, the famous star which appeared in Andromeda about the time of the Nativity, and which later was seen by Albumazar, the Arabian astronomer, in 945 AD, again in 1264, and towards the end of the 16th century by Kepler, is one of those stars which have an orbit of great eccentricity with a major axis towards the solar system, so that they appear end on, which entering the field of vision make a brief incursion, during which they appear in a grow in luminosity and then recede again, are lost to view for a period of many years. It is thus the falls in the sign of Capricorn, and the sign is affected during the years 1921-22 by malefic conjunction of Mars and Mercury in the world horoscope. Falling as it does in the sign of Capricorn, astrologically associated with political and governmental affairs more than any other sign of the zodiac on account of its correspondence with the 10th division of the heavens, this star holds for us portents of singular interest. Perhaps new stars have other significance that which belongs to comets. It may herald the appearance or birth of a new and great political leader, or the rise of a new world power in dominion of politics. That it falls in the solar decan of the sign Capricorn is at least significant of such probability. Since Capricorn is the most mysterious and esoteric sign of all the zodiac, its chief significance to us as mystics in that Capricorn is presided over by the great spiritual beings called the Kumaras, whose especial function it is to bring forth for the races the avatars of those superior gods who manifest themselves to men. The Kumaras are also concerned in the destruction of lower forms of life and manifestation that higher forms may take their places. Also, the lower passions and appetites of men, thus helping men to evolve to his higher destiny through the exercise of the power of Krishanti. I'm totally butchering that. The power of spiritual creative thought, which enables one to produce external tangible phenomena by its own inherent energy. This means that while man is still dwelling here on earth in separated sexes, his higher creation will ultimately be brought forth not through sex, but through this mysterious creative power of spiritual thought. And Capricorn is a sign where these mighty beings, of whom Saint Michael was one, presided. It is for this reason that all avatars or saviors of mankind are born, or rather appear in Capricorn, or as it is commonly expressed, are laid in a manger. Capricorn being the sign of the manger. It is also the sign of the goat, an animal that is very strongly sexed, thus plainly showing the power of creating through thought and will must proceed from the same spiritual source as the lower sexual creations, but pure and undefiled, and manifesting through other centers. Sorry, guys. That is to say, the sexual conditions will be supplemented, not superseded, by the Kriyashakti, the Shakti, the Kray Shakti. An avatar, as well as we known, is not born sexually or mortal women, yet is truly born a virgin. The sign Virgo, being on the horizon as Capricorn rises, laid in a manger where the animals came for their food. What is the significance of these great cosmic events for us Christian mystics and students of the occult philosophy? The cosmic life blood permeates not only the planet, but the very substance of our bodies, the physical as well as the finer. For the last few years, the very air we breathe has been so changed and charged with new forces and substances that it has been more difficult than formerly for advanced and supersensitive persons to breathe, especially during periods of low barometer, which would naturally intensify the physical effect. It is this influx of this new currents of life force and finer substances, which is eliminating the accumulative skipping that word, from the mind and aura and body of humanity like a purging drought, that it may be cleansed and ready to enter into the new era and correlate with the new forces now being poured out upon mankind and the planet. Naturally, the more sensitive persons who have some disease or even weak spot in their bodies, or who have been something in their minds and auras, which requires elimination, find the period of purgation a trying and confusing time. Yet they should remember that the power of the Christ within them is greater than all that can oppose their advance, if they will but correlate with and utilize it. Also, although nervous ether of the planet is impregnated with man's vileness and bringing back to him for redemption that which he has created and sent forth, nevertheless, it is also filled with a new influx of the vibrant life force of the cosmos, the very Christ power. Therefore, we should recognize the meaning of this transitory condition under which we are living and refuse to respond to or correlate with anything but the constructive life forces in them. If our bodies are strong and healthy and do not suffer, we may find other effects of this new forces springing up, new expressions of temper, subdued irritation to conquer, selfishness to rise above, and temptations of the flesh to overcome. In short, everything in the Earth's atmosphere and air aura is intensified, both the good and the evil. Hence, we must make a still greater effort than we have made in the past to stand on the Lord's law side. In these days of confusion, when the last of the old cycle is overlapping the new, like the period of convalescence after a disease has run its course, the new cells can be built in and perfect health restored. The great end which these changes in conditions and affairs are striving to bring about in one of purification and balance, and a harmonizing with the higher spiritual note that has been sounded in the cosmic scale. Unless we strive to correlate with this aim and bring about these changes voluntarily within ourselves and our environment, we are placing ourselves in impediments in the circulation of the blood of the cosmos. Hence, like all impediments in a swiftly flowing current, we must either be stranded and left behind or swept along to be buffered and suffer until we are purified and have someone with the stream or one with the law. And since man has free will, we can make himself either something that must be purged from the life stream of humanity, or he can become a white warrior corpuscle or leukocyte, which aids in the destruction and elimination of impurities and in the building up of a new tissue in the body of mankind. This is a vital subject for our practical mystics to understand and take advantage of, a practical result toward which we should strive, for it shows us why conditions in the world are so unbalanced and also toward what ends they are tending. It further shows why our personal conditions are more or less unbalanced and inharmonious. And just as when our blood is polluted, we should not wait for the purifying process to force out the impurities through painful boils, but we should purge ourselves within and without and wash out the impurities with great draughts of sparkling water. So during this period in evolution, we should drink in copious draughts of the divine waters of life, the force of the great mother love, which shall purify our minds and hearts from selfishness, jealousy, resentment, and antagonism, and also purge from our mental and astral bodies all impure desires, which attract to us similar conditions and forces from mental and astral worlds. Having experienced the first stage, the awakening, we consciously started out on the path. Through following the above suggestions, we can pass the second of the stages of the mystic life, the purgation, and prepare ourselves for the three final stages: illumination, crucifixion, and union, in which we shall become conscious channels and agents of the cosmic life forces in their work for the regeneration of humanity and the planet itself, thus making the last days of the old dispensation a vital preparation for the new. And now, if more people would read this freaking book and understand their work, and we're at that, some of us are already on that third stage, many of us are on the second, and a large chunk of humanity are still in that first stage. So again, we have a lot to do. We have a lot of work to do. We have a lot of inner work to do. We have a lot of manifesting to do. We have a lot of cleaning to do. Things don't happen overnight. It's not a snap and God said, let that be. Doesn't work like that. And there's so many things that have yet to still be unraveled, even to the people who study the truth, who are looking at the truth, who are going and investigating. There's so many layers and so many messed up things that have been hidden from humanity for millennia in our time frames, that unraveling all of that is going to take a very long time. So things are happening. We are slowly being guided. We're slowly coming into ourselves. We're slowly remembering who we are. And that's one of those bigger things that all my oracle cards keep saying to everybody who listens to them. Do your inner work, because it takes years to do your inner work. It's not going in your little, I got a bean bag, or going under my big pyramid and sitting in it takes a lot more than that to do your inner work, to ask your why, what questions. There are things in your unconscious that you're not aware of that are hidden for you for a reason. And eventually, in divine timing, they kind of like ravel up so that you can deal with it. And you thought you were done with something, you thought you moved past it, you thought you forgave, you're like, all right. And like 6 months later, oh, here it comes again. And it's just for you to keep going deeper and deeper and deeper, and going through your trauma, going through your pains, going through everything. It's a lifelong process. Things don't happen overnight, but you got to start somewhere, and starting now is the best time. And those of you who continuously do your work, keep going at it. I do it all the time. I've been sitting more so in meditation in the last 5 years than I've ever sat in meditation. I meditated for a different spans of my life. I used to meditate all the time, but for short lengths of time or not with purpose. Now I have purpose, and now I go and venture and find those. I do better with guided meditations, but lately I just put some binaural beats on and I'm out. Do your work. And I have plenty of videos on kind of where to start. And it's just asking yourself some hard questions. The why, what questions. Why am I here? What's my purpose? 2 best starter questions. And they're not easy to answer. It takes time. Good luck. Next time, we will read the law of growth. Sending each and every one of you light, love, shielding, and protection. Please be safe. The weekend is upon us. Eyes and ears open. Make sure you have everything that you need, just in case there is a state of emergency, a storm, whatever have you. We're in trying times. We're getting purified. And that will cause a lot of us to suffer. So just be aware of that. And I hope to see you guys on the next one. Please don't forget to like, share, and subscribe, especially the Curtis books. These books are till the next time, guys. See you on the next one. Bye.